Hello everyone! In this video we're going to draw a cat. Start by drawing a circle as a guide for the front part of the body. To draw the circle, first make two small marks to indicate the circle's length, and then on the sides make two more small marks to indicate the circle's width. Then connect the marks using curved lines to finish the shape of the circle. Sketch lightly at first so that it's easy to erase if you make a mistake. Also, pause the video to draw at your own pace. The circle doesn't have to be perfect, but if you're having trouble drawing it, just trace the outer edge of a coin, a bottle cap, or anything else with a circular edge. To the left, draw another circle as a guide for the back portion of the body. Use the 4 marks method to draw this circle too. First, make 4 small marks to indicate the sides of the circle, and then connect the marks using curved lines to finish the shape of the circle. The 2 circles should be roughly the same size. Don't place the circles too far apart or the body will be too long. On the top right side, draw a smaller circle as a guide for the head. Use the 4 marks method to draw this circle as well. The edges of this circle and the first circle should touch. This circle should be about half the size of the first circle. Inside the head circle, draw a curved horizontal line. This is a construction guide that will help you place the facial features later on. On top of the horizontal line, draw a short vertical line for another construction guide. On the bottom half of the head, draw a small circle as a guide for the muzzle. Pay attention to the size of this circle in relation to the rest of the head. The top of this circle should overlap the horizontal construction guide. On top of the head, draw 2 triangular shapes as guides for the ears. Pay attention to the position of the ears on the head. Don't draw them too close to the top. Make the ear on the right slightly smaller. Under the first circle, draw a long angled line as a guide for the front leg. Bend the line in the middle to indicate a joint. At the bottom, angle the line to the right to indicate where the foot will be. To the right, draw a similar line as a guide for the other front leg. Under the circle on the left, draw another long angled line as a guide for the hind leg. This line should slope at the top. Bend the line in the middle to indicate the joint and again at the bottom for the foot. To the right, draw a similar line as a guide for the other hind leg. Connect the head to the body using sloping lines to create the guide for the neck. The shape of the neck should be wide. Connect the circles in the middle using 2 horizontal lines to finish the guide for the torso. Curve these lines slightly. On the top left side of the body, draw a line that curves up as a guide for the tail. Pay attention to the length of this line in relation to the body. If you'd like, you can draw the tail curving down. And that's it for the guidelines. Now let's start on the final drawing. Inside the head, on top of the horizontal construction guide, lightly sketch 2 small circles for the eyes. Use the vertical line as a guide to help you determine the space between the eyes. Pay attention to how big the eyes are in relation to the head. When you get the sizes and positions of the eyes right, darken the shapes. The eye on the right should be a bit smaller because the head is slightly turned. Make the sides of the eyes pointier as you darken them. Draw a couple of short lines on the inner edges of the shapes for the corners of the eyes. These lines should point down toward the muzzle. Shade the corners of the eyes. Make the edges of the eyes thicker and darker. Inside each eye, off to the side, draw a tiny circle for highlights. In the middle of each eye, draw a thin oval-like shape for the pupils. Make the tops and bottoms of the pupils pointy. Don't overlap the tiny highlight circles as you draw the pupils. If you'd like, you can draw circles instead for dilated pupils. Draw a few short strokes above the eyes for fur. Shade the tops of the eyes using a light value to create some shadows. Use a value that's lighter than the pupils when you shade. Inside the circle for the muzzle, lightly sketch a small triangle for the nose. Draw the nose close to the middle of the circle. When you get the size and position of the nose right, darken the lines. Make the top edge of the nose wavy. Curve the left side of the nose to create the nostril. Add a short vertical line at the bottom of the nose. Curve the right side of the nose too for the other nostril. The top corners of the nose should point toward the inner corners of the eyes. Draw a few short lines above the shape for the bridge of the nose. Under the nose, draw a line that curves to the left for the first part of the mouth. Draw another short line on the right for the other side of the mouth. Don't draw the mouth too far down below the nose. Add a few short strokes on the sides for the furry tips of the mouth. Curve the strokes upward to create the sides of the muzzle. Draw the sides of the muzzle along the edges of the initial circle. Below the mouth, draw a curved line that's made up of short strokes for the furry chin. Curve the chin along the path of the initial circle. Sketch lightly at first and only darken the lines when you get the shapes right. Use the triangular shape on the top left side as a guide to draw the first ear. Darken the shape of the guide but make the sides more curved. Add a few curved lines on the left side to give the ear structure. Add a few short strokes within the shape for the fur that's inside the ear. Draw more short strokes along the edge of the initial head circle for the furry base of the ear. Use the triangular shape on the right as a guide to draw the other ear the same way. Darken the shape of the guide but make the sides curvier. Draw short curved lines on the sides to give the ear more structure. Draw a series of short strokes along the bottom and inside the shape for the fur. Use the big circle as a guide to draw the rest of the head. Draw a series of short strokes along the edge of the circle for the furry shape of the head. Make the sides of the head slightly wider than the initial circle. Don't darken the bottom part of the head. On the left side, leave a few gaps between the fur. Add a few more short strokes inside the head for more fur. Use the second angled line from the right as a guide to draw the first front leg. First, lightly sketch the shape of the leg around the guideline. The leg should be wide at the top and then gradually get thinner toward the bottom. On the bottom right side, draw a short curved line for the paw. When you get the shape of the leg right, darken the lines. Use short strokes on the left side for a furry texture. Curve the edges of the leg around the guideline to indicate the joints. Keep the sides of the leg close to the guideline so that the overall shape is thin. Inside the paw, draw a couple of short curved lines to separate the toes. Don't make the shape of the paw too big. Use the line on the right as a guide to draw the other front leg the same way. Lightly sketch the shape of the leg around the guideline. Curve the middle section for the joint, and at the bottom, draw a short curved line for the paw. When you get the shape right, darken the lines. Don't overlap the first leg as you draw this leg. This leg should be slightly smaller than the first leg. Draw a short curved line inside the paw for the toes. Use the angled line on the far left side as a guide to draw the first hind leg. Just like with the front legs, first lightly sketch the hind leg around the guideline. The top part of the hind leg should be a lot wider than the top part of the front leg. The bottom part of the leg should be thin. When you get the shape of the leg right, darken the lines. Use short strokes at the top to create a furry texture. Bend the middle section of the shape to indicate the joint. Inside the paw, draw a couple of short curved lines to separate the toes. Use the line on the right as a guide to draw the other hind leg the same way. Draw the shape of the leg around the guideline. The top part of this leg will be hidden behind the first hind leg and the body. Sketch lightly at first and only darken the lines when you get the shape right. Draw a short curved line inside the paw for the toes. Now use the remaining lines and shapes as guides to draw the rest of the body. Simply darken the outer edges of the guides to create the shape of the body. Use one long continuous line for the top of the body. Darken the bottom section of the body using a series of short strokes for a furry texture. Don't overlap the legs that are on this side of the body as you darken the lines. Use the curved line on the top left side as a guide to draw the tail. Lightly sketch the shape of the tail around the guideline. Keep the edges of the tail close to the guideline so that the shape is thin. The tip of the tail should be thin and pointy, and the bottom should be wide. When you get the shape of the tail right, darken the lines. Use short strokes on the left side of the tail for a furry texture. Now erase the initial guidelines. The next few steps are sped up so that the video isn't too long. Don't worry about erasing all of the guidelines. It's okay if you leave some behind. Redraw any of the final lines that you may have accidentally erased. Now shade your drawing. Shade using a series of short strokes to create a furry texture. For a tabby cat, draw a few stripes on the forehead and on the cheeks. The stripes on the forehead should create a shape that's similar to the letter M. As you shade, use strokes that go in the direction of the fur. Inside the head, the stroke should radiate outward from the nose. On the body, the stroke should have a horizontal orientation. Inside the body, add the striped pattern using a series of darker short strokes. Shade lightly at first and gradually build up to darker values. For light values, push down very lightly on your pencil, then push down harder for darker values. Leave the bottom part of the head and body blank for the white fur. As you shade, separate each stroke a bit so that the white of the paper comes through and creates a more furry texture. Slowly and gradually add more value throughout the body. Add a lighter value throughout the body to create some shadows. Shadows will give the figure more dimension and volume. Draw a shadow at the bottom using a medium value. Shading can be time-consuming, so be patient and take breaks. It's a good idea to use reference as you shade for a more accurate depiction of a tabby cat. Keep shading until you're happy with the result. And that's it for the cat. Don't forget to pause the video to draw at your own pace. Also, please visit howtodrawanimals.com where every step of this tutorial is broken down into an individual image. That's how, and then the number 2, then drawanimals.com. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and a comment. Also subscribe for more videos in the future. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep drawing.